Hello, my name is Robert Larson. I'm an attorney and the owner of the Larson Law Office in Mesa, Arizona, and I focus primarily on family law and estate planning. I also do some personal injury work as well. But today I wanted to talk about a subject that comes up a lot in family court, and this involves custody cases where it's either a divorce with children or just a custody case by itself. A lot of times, parents have a problem communicating with each other. Either they ignore each other or their communications are not civil and there may be name calling and accusations, or they can't stay on topic when it comes to focusing on keeping the communications to issues that are relevant to their children, and instead they start bringing up other issues that really just make things more difficult for communications. So one thing we see a lot in family court, especially with high conflict cases, is poor communication. And so something that's happened over the past several years that has been a really big development and an improvement for this situation is co-parenting apps. So these are basically apps that you can download on your phone, and they have messaging capabilities and even more than that. So you can do text messages through the app, and you can or you could send a message more like email, or it could be more like a text message. You can even arrange for phone calls and video calls through the app, and that would be more like when parents are communicating with the children while they're in the other parent's care, that kind of thing. But you can do pretty much anything that the phone can do. So why would you do it through the app? Well, there are a few reasons. First of all, these apps typically keep a record of everything. So your phone keeps a record, but not so well. It's hard to collect text messages. A lot of times people end up doing screenshots, and sometimes you go into court and people have dozens or even hundreds of screenshots of text messages. And it's not always clear if we're getting all the text messages. Well, first of all, best case scenario, it's a little bit difficult to read and follow everything when you're dealing with screenshots. But secondly, you don't really know if you're missing parts of the conversation or if things have been manipulated in certain ways, and it's just hard to read and it's hard to arrange. It takes a long time to do it as well, to just to arrange all the text messages as evidence for court. So it gets more expensive to have your law firm doing all that work. Whereas if you have one of these co-parenting apps, you can just download the conversation and just print that out, and you have it very easy, and it includes the entire conversation so that you know you're not missing anything, and it's much easier to read in court and takes less time to prepare. So that's one of the features that judges like about it, is it gives them a complete record. In fact, I've seen some judges issue orders that when they order people to use these co-parenting apps, sometimes they will say, if you want to use evidence in court, it has to come from this app. If you communicate outside of the app, other than for emergencies, basically they're not going to look at it. So basically, that's one of the things that judges really like about it, is it gives them a good record so that they can see how people are communicating with each other, especially when there's been accusations about poor communication from the other. And usually, if one parent is accusing the other person or the other parent about poor communication, then the other parent is saying the reverse as well. So this gives the judge a full idea of how people are communicating. Second, when people know that they're using the app and that it may be seen by a judge at some point, they're more likely to be civil and cooperative and helpful with each other. And in fact, some of the apps even have a tone indicator to basically say your tone is poor. You should edit your message before you send it, or if there's inappropriate language or things like that. Basically, it will give you a guide and say, you really shouldn't send the message right now. Or maybe on some of them, it might even say you can't send this message right now with this language in there. You need to edit and make it appropriate before it will send. So that's one thing that judges like about it as well. And it makes communications just easier for the parents as well. And besides that, other features that are really helpful are you can send receipts or invoices for bills that you need to share payment on. So for example, if one parent gets a medical bill, and let's say the other parent is supposed to pay 50-50 or 75% or whatever percent it is, one parent gets the bill, pays their share, and then they send the invoice and the receipt of what they've paid to the other parent, and then they'll say, hey, you need to pay your share, and they can submit it, and then there's a record of that. You, would, you might be surprised to find out how often it comes up in court where um, one parent will pay various expenses for the kids, and it's supposed to be shared expenses. So they'll say that they asked for payment from the other parent, and or sorry, they asked for payment from the other parent, and never received it. But that a lot of times there's no record of it. So when you do it this way, there's a record of when that receipt or invoice was sent and the request for payment was sent, and it stays in there forever. And you don't just send the request, the, the receipt or invoice is actually uploaded into the app. And then also, here's another great feature. The parent who needs to pay their share, they can actually pay through the app. So you can connect your bank account information or credit card or whatever it is, and you can actually make your payment to the other parent through the app. And there's a record of that too. So nobody can claim that you didn't pay your share. So it's really great. Nobody can claim that you didn't request payment, and nobody can claim that they didn't receive payment. And those are two issues that you may be surprised to find out people fight over all the time in court. And so this eliminates that possibility. But there's also places where you can upload school documents, medical information, insurance information, and for the children and things like that. You can just upload a lot of documents and have a library of documents that are relevant to the children. And that way, again, this is something that people fight over all the time in court. Like people will say, well, she won't give me the insurance card, or he won't give me the insurance information, or the social security number, or whatever. And then they'll say, I did send it, and you just lost it. I don't need to keep sending it to you, so on. This eliminates those silly fights, and basically you can just upload documents in there, and then you have them. There are a lot of other features as well, but some people use them on their own, and some people get court ordered to do it. And I think judges are doing it more and more often. They've been around for several years, and at first, in my experience, judges were typically ordering people to do it when there was a history of bad communication, and now they're doing it more and more frequently, even when it's not that bad. And just because it just, like for the reasons I said, it just makes so many things easier. And just a few of the ones I want to mention here, and this is by no means an extensive list or an exhaustive list, but here's some of the more common ones. I actually wrote a blog about it, just published it last night. I'll give you a link to that if you want to read it as well. But Our Family Wizard is probably the most commonly known one. This is really good for people who have high conflict situations. They create records that are really good to be used in court, so a lot of judges like to order people to use this one. The downside of this one, there is a cost that's close to $150 per year, so it's not a huge cost, but there is some expense with it. You can apply for fee waivers, so if it's going to be a hardship, you can apply to have it for free or maybe discounted rates. But Talking Parents is another one, and that's a very common one that people use. There is a free option available on this, although I think it doesn't give you all the features. I think you might have to pay if you want additional features, but I think there is a level where you can just have very basic communications without an expense. Another one is AppClose, and this one is free, and it has a lot of tools, like we mentioned about. One thing that I don't think I mentioned yet is the shared calendar. So this isn't just exclusive to AppClose, but a lot of the apps will have a calendar that parents can put things on. So for example, if your children have a school concert or sporting activity or whatever it is, you can put it on the calendar, and that way both parents know about it. And again, nobody can say that they didn't receive notice because they're required by court order to keep up to date, and they would receive a message if something has been added to the calendar. So, or it could be a doctor's appointment or whatever it is. So the shared calendar can be a really good feature as well. So AppClose has that, as well as many of the other features that I've mentioned. Another one is Cozy. This is a little bit more for parents who are able to get along well with each other, but just want to have some help. Anyway, like I said, there are other apps, and I think these have been really helpful for people. And I mentioned that judges like them, but really the most important thing is to help people to communicate better, because that's what's going to be best for their children. And if these apps help parents to be better parents and to keep the children out of the arguments that they're having and help avoid those arguments so that the children aren't exposed to them, then they're very worth it. And they just make people's lives easier when they're co-parenting. So if you have any questions about that, feel free to comment, or if you want to call my office and talk about your situation, we can do that as well. Again, if you found this video to be helpful, as always, please like and subscribe so that you can get more or share with others. And like I said, if you have any questions or comments, let me know and I'll be happy to respond. Thanks.